Woke Coke CEO James Quincey is doubling down on support for a federal takeover of the nation's state-run election systems. He seems to be throwing his support behind Democrat election dream bill HR1, which, among other egregious provisions, would outlaw voter ID requirements across the country. In a statement released on Thursday, Quincey said, "Coca-Cola has long championed efforts to make it easier to vote." He went on to say that Coke's focus is now on supporting federal legislation that protects voting access and addresses voter suppression across the country. Is voting hard? I've been voting since I was 18. That was years ago. I never found it particularly difficult. Isn't this the company that was recently criticized for training its employees to try to be less white? Hey man, it's almost summer. I'm trying. Not to let Coca-Cola take all of Georgia's spotlight on wokeness, Delta Airlines got in on the act too. Speaking out against Georgia's new voter ID law, Delta CEO Ed Bastian said, "I need to make it crystal clear that the final bill is unacceptable and does not match Delta's values." I wonder if this means Delta will stop asking customers for ID when they buy a ticket and begin a campaign against passports and the TSA checking ID at security lines. Bastian went on to say that it's evident that the Georgia voter ID law includes provisions that will make it harder for many underrepresented voters, particularly black voters, to exercise their constitutional right to elect their representatives. That is wrong. So does Bastian support discriminating against black passengers flying on his airline? The ID required to fly is more stringent now than it's ever been with real ID. Where's the corporate outrage? The federal legislation these CEOs are speaking in support of is an 800-page bill that does away with numerous state-level efforts to detect and curtail fraudulent voting. It is 100% a partisan bill, and if passed, the United States can kiss the noble idea of free and fair elections goodbye forever, barring intervention by the U.S. Supreme Court. Despite the name, HR1 isn't a bill for the people. It's a bill aimed at preserving the power of the ruling party in perpetuity in a manner usually reserved for communist and third-world banana republics. The people who decry voter ID as an evil effort to suppress black or other minority voters and scream about racism all day are the real racists. They believe in their woke little hearts that black voters are less capable of obtaining and using government-issued ID. I've never thought so, but hey, I'm not black. Maybe my easy time voting is just a result of my white privilege. So let's check and see what some African Americans have to say on the matter real quick.
This is my utility bill. If anybody would like to pay it, I'll give it to you. This is my utility bill. This is one of probably 8 or 9 photo IDs that I have. When I go to vote, or people in my community go to vote, we are going to feel more empowered when we walk up there and say, "Here is my ID. Do not turn me away anymore. This is my utility bill." Come on. Which one is more empowering to me and people in my community? This utility bill, by the way, it has Lucky Rosenblum. My name is Marilyn Rosenblum, my nickname. So I could vote under my nickname, where this has my full legal given name, which will empower me when I go and vote.
Eric, independent in White Marsh, Maryland. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm from right outside of Baltimore, in the big inner city, and I almost take offense to the young man who's defending not having an ID to be able to vote, because the examples you named African Americans, and as an African American, I take offense to you saying that. Any young African American that cannot get an ID does not deserve the right to vote. We work too hard in this country to get this right. Everyone should take advantage of it and play by the rules. If they were giving away a check and you needed to have an ID to cash that check, everybody will be running and they would have their IDs in hand. Please stop using us, African Americans, or any minority like an excuse to further this cause you have, because it's really hurting us. You're calling us ignorant. You're calling us invalid. If you're talking about a small minority that they can do exceptions for, then only speak of those exceptions and stop using everybody else. It's appalling, okay?
Please watch the Election Integrity Conference highlights video linked on the end screen to learn what HR1 is really all about. Thanks for watching. See how you can get involved at electionintegritywatch.org.